welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back.
Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Friday, November 28th, 2014. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5-ish. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Got the chance to spend some time with family and friends, but it's back to the well for us. You should be thankful for this. Thanksgiving postponed Wiltfong for one day, so instead of Thursdays with Wiltfong, we have Fridays with Steve Wiltfong, the Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Steve, thanks for joining us, brother.
Good morning, Dan. I called in yesterday and you weren't available. I don't know what you were up to, but I was ready to work.
I only had you on hold for about a half an hour, so I thought that was very much in the Thanksgiving spirit. Speaking of the Thanksgiving spirit, obviously this weekend is the game, and surrounding the game is some really awesome recruiting stuff. Steve and I were actually just talking a little before the show, and it's really an interesting group of names that are headed to Ohio State this weekend to visit. Not just interesting for their talent and the recruitment they've been through, but many guys committed elsewhere. We're kind of going to go down the list here and kind of knock these off one by one, and Steve's going to share some info on 6 guys we want to discuss that will be headed there this weekend. But first, Mirko Jurkovic, an offensive lineman, committed to Nebraska. But we're hearing there's a pretty good chance he may flip this weekend. Are you hearing the same?
Well, I think Ohio State was a real player for Mirko early in the process, and when he narrowed it down to the 3 schools, Ohio State, Nebraska, and I believe it was Florida. Nebraska was the school of those 3 that wanted him the most at that time, and so he committed to the Huskers. Have things changed with Ohio State after them getting a shot to watch Mirko play his senior year down at IMG Academy? Maybe. I think he's a really good prospect, really blew up over the summer, landed several Big Ten and SEC offers before he committed to Nebraska, and thought he was one of the stronger gets in the Huskers class. Ohio State bringing in several offensive linemen this weekend. Andre James, the UCLA commit, Drew Richmond, the top 100 Ole Miss commit, who was last on campus for Friday Night Lights. This is a return visit for both. Return visit for Mirko Jurkovic, who's coming up with his mom. So those guys are certainly serious about Ohio State, and Ohio State remains after offensive linemen in this class, although they have 4 committed. Isaiah Prince is another one, the top 100 offensive lineman from Maryland, the number 1 prospect in Maryland overall, according to 24/7 Sports. Plans on taking an official late in the process, and he told me last week that he didn't care how many commits any school had at the position. He's ready to come in, and he's going to just choose the school right for him. So Ohio State recruiting all the way to the end here. It's a February signing day, and they remain in the mix for several talented offensive linemen. Dan, I think there's 4 guys this weekend that are coming in outside of Mirko that I could very well see end up in an Ohio State uniform. You got Neville Gallimore, the top 100 defensive tackle out of Canada. He's coming in. I think that's an Oklahoma-Ohio State battle. I mean, Auburn may have made a move this past weekend, but definitely have to like where Oklahoma and Ohio State fit in for Neville, and Ohio State's 24/7 Sports crystal ball leader for Gallimore, as they are also for top 247 receiver Lawrence Cager, another U.S. Army All-American who takes his official this weekend. Cager named the Buckeyes his leader at Friday Night Lights when he earned his offer. Alabama's the other major school in the mix. Notre Dame probably rounding out that top 3 for Cager. Then you got Detroit Cats Tech running back Michael Weber coming in, according to Bucknuts insider Bill Kierlick, who's been working that story all week. And Ohio State was a leader at one point this summer for Weber. He told me at the Ohio Nike football training camp that the Buckeyes were his leader. That camp was actually on the Buckeyes campus that day. I think when it's all said and done, Weber, who's gotten offers from Alabama, Georgia in the last week, I think he still ends up in Big Ten country. Ohio State certainly got a great shot to land him. And then you got the defensive tackle, DaVon Hamilton from Pickerington Central, the former Pitt commit who's visiting this weekend. He does not have an offer, and I'm not saying he's going to get an offer, but I am saying he's good enough to play at Ohio State. So the tricky thing is, or excuse me, not the tricky thing, but the thing is Ohio State, they have so many great players on their board, and they have so many great players that like them. Where does DaVon Hamilton fit in? Because I think they think he's good enough to play there. I mean, hell, he had a hell of a senior year. He is just a He is just a fantastic player. Was the Central Ohio Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think he's a guy that really came on. You see it a few times a year across the country with guys that just catapult themselves into what I think is a higher echelon caliber offer. As a senior, DaVon Hamilton's certainly one of them, but Ohio State, they're juggling a lot of blue chippers right now, so we'll see where DaVon fits in. But if he gets offered, I think that he could commit on the spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Wiltfong just answered 80% of my questions ahead of time, so I'm going to have to vamp a little bit. Which brings me to the DaVon Hamilton situation, and even Mirko Jurkovic. These guys aren't as highly rated as some of the other guys in the class that Ohio State has spent a lot of time pursuing and getting commitments from. So with the DaVon Hamilton thing, are you telling us this is the kind of thing where when they do the rankings finally, we can expect Hamilton to probably rocket up the board a little bit?
Well, I talked to Barton Simmons, our director of scouting, last week about getting DaVon Hamilton bumped, so I think that's something that's going to happen soon. I know that the high school coaches in Ohio extremely high on DaVon. I spent some time in Cincinnati last week, which included Justin Hilliard getting his U.S. Army All-America Bowl jersey, and DaVon was a guy that the high school coaches in the area were speaking very highly of, especially Coach Rodenberg over at Moeller, who played against Pickerington Central in the state playoffs a couple weeks ago. And I think DaVon's just, Mirko is a 3-star recruit. He's the number 48 offensive guard in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. But he's got offers now. You're talking about Arkansas, who they have arguably the best offensive line coach in the country. And he's offered. And you got Mississippi State, Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, of course, offered, Nebraska.
I think Jurkovic also has some NFL bloodlines, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a Green Bay Packer defensive lineman in his family tree somewhere.
Yeah, his uncle and his dad was an All-American offensive lineman at Notre Dame. So there's no question he's got some bloodlines. And Notre Dame, I think we talked about it. We talked about it on Bucknuts a while back when Mirko was offered by Ohio State this summer that Notre Dame just filled up on their offensive lineman spots fast. Not saying they would have or wouldn't have gone on Mirko, but Mirko's good enough to play anywhere. It just again comes down to what's your board look like. Do you like some guys better? And for DaVon Hamilton, though, he should have more offers. He's got Kentucky, Pitt, NC State. This kid is just being overlooked.
If he's not, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if he's not coming to Ohio State, why would he decommit from Pitt?
Well, I think that I don't think his dad told me that they're taking visits, and they thought it would be disrespectful to Pitt for them to take visits and remain committed. So that was their ideology. I think he'll go to Kentucky. So if he doesn't get the offer from Ohio State, I think Kentucky will be the team to beat. But we'll see who else comes into the picture. Ohio State's been monitoring DaVon Hamilton all year, but he's an in-state kid. The schools that are coming in from out of state, Kentucky's probably recruits the state of Ohio as well as anyone else, and so he didn't fall under their radar. So they're on him. But who else? Other schools, he just slipped through the cracks because he was committed to Pitt. So for whatever reason, but he should have racked up offers this fall. Turn on the tape. He's a baller.
Let's hope the rest of college football's negligence is Ohio State's game. Steve, we appreciate you joining us. Sounds like it's going to be an awesome weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to follow these recruitments, you're very lucky that you have Steve Wiltfong and Bill Kurlick on the case this weekend. And we'll have it first. We'll have it best. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Appreciate it, Dan.